He told me on our first date, right after we split the creme brulee. I know it's not cool, he said, rolling the spoon between his fingers, but tattoos are a deal breaker for me. Not judging anyone else, just not for me and a partner. It landed in that early date space where everything is still theoretical. People say things like they're arranging furniture you haven't bought yet. I nodded and tucked it into the drawer where I keep other people's hard lines. I had none at the time except no cheating and no clowns, and I figured his was like a food allergy. Annoying, manageable, surely flexible once he loved me enough. Evan was a cartographer who made maps for a living and lists for fun. He ironed his shirts on Sundays and kept his bike chain oiled like it was a sacrament. He was kind in a quiet way. He'd set an extra fork by my plate if he knew I'd steal bites. He carried cash because old bakeries don't take cards. He wasn't rigid. He just liked his life to look like it wouldn't tip if the table got bumped. We moved in together at 11 months. The lease had both our names. He labeled the fuse box and built a shallow drawer organizer that made me want to marry him right there between the measuring spoons. His hard line came up twice in that first year casually, once at a barbecue when our friend Jess showed us the chrysanthemum blooming on her shoulder blade, and he smiled and said, "Looks great on you, not for me." Once when we walked past a flash art window and he squeezed my hand and said, "You know my thing, right?" Not like a warning, like a reminder. I said, "Of course, the way you say of course about flossing." Here is the part one wish made me sound brave and complicated. It doesn't. It makes me sound like someone who wanted to have it both ways and thought cleverness was a kind of courage. I had wanted a tattoo since I was 17. A tiny, clean line drawing of a wave on my ribs. Not a statement, just a private promise to the kid who spent every summer at an unglamorous lake pretending the rope swing was a portal. I didn't want a sleeve. I didn't want a quote. I wanted a whisper. It started to itch again the week I turned 30 and my grandmother's house finally sold. I went there with my mother to pack up the last stale drawer of bobby pins and buttons, and I found a Polaroid of me at 10 with lake hair, holding the rope in both hands, brow furrowed in prayer or concentration. I put the photo in my pocket and carried it around for days like a talisman, then put it on the fridge with a bulldog magnet, then hid it in a cookbook, because even a photograph started to feel like a secret. "Tell him," my friend Nora said when I brought it up over drinks. "If he loves you, he'll make an exception for a postage stamp on your ribs." He said deal breaker. I said, but I said it like a dare to gravity. "Deal breakers loosen in proximity," she said. "People grow. Or they don't," I said, and bought a second round so I didn't have to keep investigating which of us was right. A month later, after a Saturday yoga class, Nora and I walked past a shop with a clean window, steady hand portfolios, and a sign that said "Walk is welcome." The artist wore black and a headlamp and asked good questions about line weight and healing. I showed him the Polaroid. He made a sketch. He told me to breathe and like an idiot I did. It took 12 minutes. The sting was exactly the kind that makes you feel alive, and also like you're lying to someone you love. I paid in cash. He gave me aftercare instructions and a square of clear film to wear for 3 days. I pulled my sports bra up carefully, pulled my sweatshirt down, and felt both exultant and a little sick. Evan was at home seasoning the cast iron. He kissed the top of my head and asked about class. I said it was good. He handed me a plate of eggs and I angled my torso like a bad actor, so the cling film wouldn't crinkle under my shirt. For 3 weeks I became a person with a system. I showered turned away, changed in the bathroom with the fan on to cover the sound of adhesive peeling, learned the right concealer cocktail to dull the soft navy curve if I wore a white t-shirt. The irony, my private promise required the meticulous attention of a spy. I told myself I'd confess at the right time. After a good dinner, on a calm weekend, when work stress wasn't high. My definition of right time slid like a bead of oil across water. Always present, never still enough to grab. The reveal happened, inevitably, without my permission. It was early June. His sister, Layla, invited us to her condo pool because her HOA is the kind with laminated rules and a key fob that makes a satisfying beep. I wore a one-piece with a high side, confident it would cover the wave. It did. Until the second hour, when we got out to reapply sunscreen and Layla said, "Use the spray, it's faster," and I lifted my arm and Evan, who has a mapmaker's eye for edges, watched a tiny blue curve flicker where water caught it. He didn't make a sound. He looked again, like a man checking a coordinate. He didn't say anything then, not at the pool, not in front of his sister and the lifeguard and the kid with the neon float who kept cannonballing like it was his job. He set his sunglasses back on his nose and passed me the towel like a person who refuses to make a scene in public. We made it an hour. He packed the cooler with the meticulousness of a surgeon. He said goodbye to Layla and kissed her on the cheek like a brother who will not make his sister choose. He drove home with both hands on the wheel. At the apartment, he set the keys in the dish, took off his shoes and said, "Show me." I pulled my suit down on one side like a child being checked for a splinter. He looked at the wave for exactly 1 Mississippi. It's beautiful, if you want to know. Clean line, crisp curve, a little notch that looks like my 10-year-old brow. He didn't reach to touch it, which broke me in a way I hadn't prepared for. When? He asked. A month ago, I said. With Nora, he said, not a question. Yes, I said. And you didn't tell me, he said. Again, not a question. I was going to, I said. I was just picking the moment. He nodded once, then put both hands on the counter like you do before you say a sentence that changes something you can't change back. I told you on day one, he said. Not because I wanted leverage. Because I didn't want to surprise you later with a preference I'd edit retroactively into a moral. I gave you a clean choice. You made a different one. It's a small tattoo, I said, hearing how pathetic it sounded even as I said it. It's private. It doesn't change anything about me. It changes one thing about me, he said. I don't want to be with someone who hears deal breaker and thinks they can outmaneuver it. It's my body, I said, because it is, and because arguments feel safer than grief. It is your body, he said. And it is my boundary. He didn't yell. He didn't call me names. He did the thing that hurts worse. He respected us enough to be simple. I'm going to stay with Liam for a week, he said. We'll use the week to figure out logistics. The lease is joint. We can either break it or you can take it over if the landlord approves. The couch is ours. You can keep it. I'll take the chair. I'll send you a list tonight so we don't fight over spatulas. You're really leaving over a line of ink? I asked, still negotiating reality. I'm leaving because I told you who I am and you tried to sneak past it, he said. I would have been devastated if you'd come to me and said, this matters to me and I know it's your line but I can't not do it. I still would have left. But I would have grieved differently. You didn't give me that chance. You gave me secrecy. I don't like how I am inside secrets. He packed a duffel like he was going to the gym, which felt insulting until I realized it was mercy. He wasn't punishing me with theater. He was sparing me a dress rehearsal of his absence. He texted me that night from Liam's couch, an email-length message with bullet points. Landlord contact, break fee math, which bills were on autopay from his account. The date he could get movers, a request to scan the manual for the dishwasher because it had a weird error code and he wanted the next tenant to have it. He Venmo'd me for his half of the pool snacks. He is the exact kind of man who would Venmo someone for half a bag of baby carrots on the day he left them. He didn't tell his family I betrayed him. He said, we had a non-negotiable that wasn't negotiable. When Nora tried to call him to argue ethics, he said, this isn't a referendum on tattoos, it's a boundary. Boundaries don't need juries. I thought about making a speech. I drafted one in my head about autonomy and the difference between preference and control. But it wasn't that. He wasn't trying to police women, he was choosing his life. He had told me what he wanted it to look like. I had nodded and then colored outside the line and hoped he wouldn't notice because the crayon was pale. We met with the landlord, who was annoyingly reasonable. I could keep the lease with a small increase and an application fee. Evan would sign a release once the paperwork cleared. He'd submit a forwarding address for his portion of the security deposit. We set a move-out date. He booked a mover and sent me the quote split. He asked if he could take the shallow drawer organizer. You can keep it, I said, because watching him leave with the object that made me want to marry him felt biblical. On moving day, he wore his paint-stained t-shirt and the face people wear when they are doing math in their heads so they don't cry. He left the spare key in an envelope with the Wi-Fi password, the mailbox instructions, and a photo of the map he made of our neighborhood during lockdown. A hand-drawn treasure hunt of bakeries, parks, shortcuts, and the exact direction the light moves across our balcony in June. He wrote, "You like the north corner in the afternoon. Don't forget." He did not sign it. He didn't need to. After the movers left, I sat on the couch we'd chosen together and pressed my palm against the wave. It was healed now, soft and flat and permanent, not a performance, not a secret. It didn't glow with meaning. It just sat there like ink, like choice. Nora came over with a bottle and apologies. "He should have bent," she said predictably. "It's 2025. Who dumps someone over a tattoo?" "He didn't dump me over a tattoo," I said. "He left because I thought I was smarter than his." "No. Same thing," she said. "It isn't," I said, and surprised myself by meaning it. "He told me what would happen." I tested the fence. It turned out to be real. 2 months later, I saw him at the farmer's market with a woman in a linen dress and sandals that looked like good decisions. He saw me and lifted a hand. She smiled, and the smile reached her eyes. He looked rested. I didn't. He didn't come over. He didn't point at my ribs through my shirt and say, "That right there is why." He bought cherries. He weighed them in his palms like fruit and future. People ask if he won. Sometimes they say it like they're asking if I learned my lesson, as if this is a fable with a moral. He won in the only way that matters. He kept his boundary without making mine the villain. He didn't try to lobby me into removal, or demand long sleeves, or negotiate exceptions, or go on Reddit to collect angry strangers. He didn't threaten, police, or plead. He stepped back from a life that would require him to betray himself daily, and left me with exactly what I wanted. My body, my wave, my apartment, my choices. I wish I could tell you I don't miss him when the light hits the north corner. I do. I wish I could say the tattoo solved something. It didn't. It says something small and true about a girl and a rope swing, and a lake that felt like a secret world. It says nothing about the kind of adult who thinks she can love someone and hide a deal breaker under concealer. Sometimes I trace it and practice doing 2 hard things at once. Honoring my own wants and respecting someone else's no. It turns out you can't have both in the same room, not always. Sometimes the most adult thing is to let the person who won't bend walk away without deciding that makes them cruel. He told me on day 1 who he was. I told him on day 400 who I was. Both of us listened. Only one of us tried to reroute the other. He left without a scene. That was the lesson I didn't know I needed. Love isn't clever. Boundaries don't care how small the line is. And there's no such thing as a secret in a house where someone actually sees you.